Donald, welcome to Lawnside on behalf of myself, my family, and especially the residents of Lawnside. We want to welcome you here. We know that you feel like you're coming home, but I wanted you to see what Linda and what they're doing as far as the children are concerned and trying to preserve the home also. So this is Linda Shockley. You should know her very well. You should know her very well, so I don't really have to introduce you to her.
So here we are. Turnpike's out to the back. Whitehorse Pike is over here. Peter Mott. How did this start?
Well, Peter Mott was an African-American preacher, an abolitionist in his own right, and we're not exactly sure whether he was born as a free person or as an enslaved person. The possibility that he was himself a fugitive can explain why he felt committed, but we also know that this is a community where many free people felt that it was their responsibility to help others become free as well.
He was able to acquire this piece of ground for an African American back then. That was a big deal.
Yes.
How did he get involved in what is known as the Underground Railroad?
Well, so here's the interesting thing. When you look at communities where there is an African Methodist Episcopal congregation in close proximity to the Society of Friends, in many cases, those two religious organizations worked in concert. So Peter was a preacher at Snow Hill Church, which would become Mount Pisgah African Methodist Episcopal Church. And our oral tradition tells us that he took people in his wagon to the Friends in Haddonfield and in Morristown. So there's that connection.
So as we turn around, it's now in the cul-de-sac. We had this two-story building, single room, two room, bedrooms upstairs.
Originally the house was one room over one room over one room.
Oh.
So that if you look at the break in the corners, that's when the addition came on in the 1870s. But the house is basically, you'll see 6/6 sash, the windows. There are some windows that we know were original to the house. You can see that kind of wavy glass. This house was built on sand, and so the foundation was moving. So it was very well built. There's Morton and Tennis construction.
Yeah.
There's lath. So you can look at the cutaway. We actually cut away a section of the wall, and you can see that there's lath and plaster. There's no sheetrock here. So that was Peter's trade as a plasterer. Now if you look up above, you'll see it looks like a vent in the ceiling.
Right.
The fireplace was here to heat this small house, so it would go up and heat the second floor.
So was it a stove versus a fireplace?
No, it was a fire pit.
Okay.
And we can actually look down into the basement and see the fireproof rock.
Wow.
And I should point out that this furniture is elaborate for a South Jersey farmhouse. Because of Clarence Still's involvement with us, we were actually able to place this furniture, which belonged to William Still, the father of the Underground Railroad, in this house. Otherwise, he was a wealthy coal merchant, so he had much better means than a simple farmer in South Jersey, but they shared that mission. They shared the mission of freedom.
This house could have been like so many other homes of historic value, but it was saved. Why is that important?
It's important because we need tangible symbols of our struggle and of our pursuit of freedom. And so this house is an example of why and how we pursued freedom, and that this community was able to grow and grow up around it. So it's really important that people like these young people here get to see it, experience it, and hear about the things that were done here. The courage, the pursuit of freedom, the hard work, and the perseverance, and the desire for a community and unselfishness that this represents. Because they certainly were unselfish people. Many of the people here were already free, but they wanted to help others enjoy the same freedoms that they did.
So you're in a community and you can make your history by studying what happened before.
And so it's important to be able to bring children here, to bring adults here, and also for them to be taught this history in the schools. And that's why it's so important that Munira Higgs has come out of retirement to go into the schools and teach this history again to a whole new generation of children.
My name is Munira Higgs. I taught at Lawnside School for 32 years as a social studies teacher. Once I grew up here in Lawnside, so I knew the history of the town, and when I was teaching, I always taught this history to our children, and I knew how important it was for them to know about the uniqueness of this town. Jamel Jordan, and it was her idea to create these postcards to teach the children the history, so she pulled me in to be the teacher on the history of these cards.
And so it's important that we carry this on and that they can then do the research and teach us things that we don't know.
They're the living legacy for the next generation,
Exactly.
and that's so important. We look at some of the cemeteries, and we go there and we see the connections to everything today. That's why they're so important to maintain, because you can see what happened through the times. There's dates.
And the great thing about Lawnside, and considering it's 1.6 square miles, we have 3 sites on the National Register and the State Register of Historic Places. One of them is Mount Peace Cemetery, which is 11 acres. There are more than 110 African American veterans of the Civil War. You have Mount Pisgah AME Church, which was organized in 1792, and Mount Zion, which was organized in 1825, and they have cemeteries that have Buffalo Soldiers in them. We want to get Mount Pisgah and Mount Zion on the National Register of Historic Places. That will make 5 sites in this community, 1.6 square miles. That's how full of history we are and the stories that we have to tell and to share.
And we have living history. Our mayor, first female
Yes.
African American mayor
I'm
of
very
this great
happy
town.
and very proud to be here. When I moved into town, I was 21 years old. So when I came down, my mom couldn't believe it. She just did not believe it because she was from Mississippi.
So why here? You
It was just
driving down
something, the people here are unbelievable. They welcome you. And I stand on the shoulders of a lot of the older people. I mean, there are just so many sights, Donald, that you could see here that we haven't even mentioned.
History is only as long as 2 people remember and have a discussion.
Well, that's one of the great things about having this house here. An archaeologist from Maryland said, this is a monument. We're so concerned about monuments in other places being removed, but this is a monument to freedom.